What's going on, fam? It's your boy Sydney from thenakedgardeners.com, and this video we're going to tell you your garden possibly could fail this year and every year if you don't know about this. Now, earlier this year we've been planning out our garden, trying to get everything in order, and we took a soil sample through Redmond Real Salt. They have a soil test kit that we tried out on about 6 of these beds. We took random sections of each one of those beds and sent them off in, and we got the results. We actually got the results about a while ago, and that led me to the decision of planting the way that I planted. Let me tell you what I mean by that. All right, so like I said, we took soil samples of all of our 6 beds a while back, and I have the results. And what I've actually done is I wanted to kind of, when we first got onto this property, we took a sample of this area to kind of see what the soil quality was and see if we can kind of make it a lot better by doing a no-till method. So our first year of doing these testings of these beds, I noticed that from the results, our pH was quite high and our nitrogen level was quite low. Matter of fact, a lot of things were high, like the phosphorus, the calcium, those were quite high. Now, what were low was our sodium, iron, manganese, basically all the trace minerals were kind of low, and everything that was optimal area was the potassium, the sulfur, magnesium, and sodium were at the ideal area. What was surprising was calcium was kind of high. So I know if we have any issues with our nightshades, well, basically just our peppers and our tomatoes, I know that my watering needs to be a lot better. I need to improve on my watering, because especially if you're a first-time gardener, you'll get all of these, especially from these gardeners Facebook groups. You show them your tomato. What's going on with my tomato? Oh, you got blossom inroad. You need more calcium. Well, that's not actually true. Sometimes it's just your watering technique that allows that calcium not to be able to properly intake, especially if your pH level is not correct. Your plants that require the calcium won't be able to gather that up as well. They will also give you a result of what fertilizer, whether you want to do organic or synthetic. We mostly did a lot of composting. So with a lot of composting, it slowly it will improve your soil quality, especially if you're doing it with a garden. So take that in mind. But they'll give you recommendations for fertilizers. They recommend a 1200 at a 2.75 pounds per 100 square foot. We did mostly compost. We also did a lot of worm casting, worm teas, and things of that nature. We've done some of the big box stores, commercial brand like the Bone Mill and things of that nature. But other than that, that was pretty much it. But being here at this homestead, it was either compost, rabbit manure, our own worm castings, things of that nature. So the following year, after being onto the property, our second year, we did another soil testing of our garden beds, and it was quite interesting. One is our pH level, it dropped. Our nitrogen kind of improved because we were taking our bedding and putting it in our compost, letting that age, and then mixing it in through here. So that nitrogen from the chicken poop kind of helped out a little bit. The phosphorus, that went down, but it's still kind of high. The potassium increased and it kept it still at optimum level. The sulfur went down. Calcium, it went down. It was still high, but it went down. The things that were stayed at the optimum level was the manganese, sodium, iron, zinc, and copper. The ones that were very low, once again, was the sulfur, manganese, and boron. Basically some of the trace minerals, and the major one was the nitrogen. Once again, trying to increase that with the worm castings, the compost, and whatnot. So we're still trying to gradually improve our soil quality. For the fertilizer recommendation, it still stayed at the 1200, but it went from a 2.75 pounds to a 2.5 pounds per 100 square foot. A lot of things have improved with just doing compost alone, along with some other organic fertilizers that we've done. Now that gives us back to this year. Now with this year, our pH level dropped once again. Now it's at a 6.81, so it's almost a little slightly below neutral, which is good because we're growing a lot of tomatoes and they're acid loving plants. Peppers are kind of in the neutral, more of acidic area. And then we have some flowers that we're growing along with some alliums and flowers that we're interplanting with our vegetables. The nitrogen is still low, but we have a solution for that. What I've done this year is I'm going to do a succession planting of beans or legumes. Right now we got the first two beds. I'm going to plant some beans around every other tomato plant on the first bed and every other plant of the peppers in the second bed. And then every 2 to 4 weeks, I'll do another succession planting of some beans. And that way, once that those beans, it'll take the nitrogen from the air and put them into the soil once they die off. So that's my whole thinking of that. Basically, where I don't have to worry about applying that much fertilizer of the store-bought fertilizer or even our own into our beds. Next is the phosphorus. It rose back up for some strange reason with a bunch of the organic matter that we've been putting onto these beds. Now, the way I'm doing to get that back down, I'm not sure if it's going to work, is I'm going to plant a lot of rooted vegetables. I also got some lettuce, some root crops that's going to be interplanted into these beds. And what that does, and since the lettuce, the root crops, and the legumes are heavy feeders of phosphorus, that's one less thing I'm going to have to worry about feeding and fertilizing these plants. The next thing we're going to talk about is the potassium. With the potassium, it dropped. It's below, very below what it needs to be at right now. Once again, we're going to be adding a lot of compost with this. You've been watching us from the previous video. We just had a bunch of chicks in our brooder that we put out into the pasture, and we've cleared out a lot of their bedding and put it into the compost. We actually got another set of meat birds, 140 plus meat birds, into our brooder right now that we're going to be at the end of this week be putting them onto grass as well. So we're going to take all of that bedding and put it into there, and we're going to start mixing that up so that way we can get a nice rich compost by the fall season. And so that way when we do another test, we might do a test at the end of the season or once again this time next year. If you're interested in getting one of these test kits, at the end of this video I'll tell you how you can do that. You still have some time to grab one of these soil test kits. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the sulfur. The sulfur did increase, so that's good. That's probably one of the main reasons why the pH kind of dropped as well. I'm not sure what we did with that, but I wanted to keep it at a optimum level. So I'm not sure what we're going to do there. We still have room for improvement. It's at 9.05, and the max we want to go at is at 22. So I want to raise it at least about five more points. Calcium increased for some strange reasons. I don't want too much calcium because of what I feel like with a lot of these minerals and micro and macro nutrients that's in the soil. I think once you probably just like with our bodies, once we have too much, our body recommended daily allowance, or for the plants, whatever their allowance is, it basically becomes waste. So a way I'm going to combat that is I'm going to probably do some elemental sulfur with that. You can, if you do one of these tests and you found out that your calcium is very high, you can do a sulfuric acid, which acts a lot faster. But I'm not, like I said, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. I want to take it nice and slow. So we're going to do some elemental sulfur, sprinkle it lightly in between maybe every 2 to 4 weeks, just to see how the plants take it up on that. And then if everything goes well, we'll make it a part of our routine. So next we have magnesium. That dropped, and it stays very well in a nice buffer zone. So we don't have to do anything with that. Sodium increased, which was kind of shocking for the simple fact we didn't put any commercial fertilizer in these beds. With a lot of the commercial fertilizers, it has a lot of sodium in there, which was shocking. And to kind of leach that out, you have to heavily water. Around this time of year, we get about 7 inches of rain probably per week. So I would think that a lot of that will help saturate a lot of the sodium below we got the iron. It dropped, so it's very low. I've noticed off of these results our iron dropped, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this iron cow mag. Matter of fact, I know what I do. I'll do some chelated iron. That's what I do. I get some chelated iron and mix it in with some of our worm tea, compost tea, and rabbit poop tea, and spread it out through these beds as our foliage and soil drenching. So that way it kind of boosts that iron level up. Everything stayed pretty good. The manganese and zinc, the manganese kind of increased, but still at the optimal level. Our copper and our boron dropped. Not sure why that happened. Our soil, so I know how healthy our soil is to provide for our plants. Now, a lot of this is not necessary. It's very optional if you want to do this, but it allows you to know how healthy your plants could be and should be by knowing your soil. So a lot of this is I'm trying to do without a lot of resources, I guess you could say. I'm trying to do a lot of this by our own needs, where we don't have to rely on the outside big box store or commercial products. We can just basically use it for ourselves to improve our soil quality, like planting certain plants that if you have a high nutrient soil, is possibly you can take a plant and grow it in that bed and allow that plant to take off the resources that you have access of. That was one of the main things I wanted to plant, a lot of these different plants that we weren't accustomed to planting before. A lot of proliferate of onions, some root crops. We haven't planted this much root crops, I don't know how long, along with the legumes. Normally we'll try to grow the pole variety. Now we're trying to grow the bush variety, especially if you're in a small space. The bush variety is good for containers. We're growing them around, like I said, every other plant, and doing every succession planting of those because it's only me and the missus, and we probably can't eat all those beans. However, we are trying to be self-sufficient. So if you're interested in getting one of these kits from us, make sure you go to the video where we were first talking about this, and in the video it tells you how you can enter for the sweepstakes. And then during our live on this Saturday, the first Saturday of May, which is International Naked Gardening Day, we'll announce the winner. Right, for those that are new, me and my wife, we started an urban backyard garden in the Dallas area. We outgrew that and decided to sell that and move into the 6.5 acres in North Texas. And so we now not only grow our own food, we raise our own food. And if you want to see more videos about that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you like this content already, make sure you hit the like button. Until the next video, let's grow together.